everybody, it's Romania Black, and it's been a while since I've been recording Trigun Stargaze. If you are watching on Patreon, it's been about a week since episode 9. YouTube won't really notice that much, but it's okay. Anyway, it has been such a long wait, especially when you know that a week-to-week show is coming out and you're not able to watch it. It's torture. You're just sitting there being like, well, I guess I'll get to it when we get back to things. But, you know, I've been going through my list of things to react to, and I was so excited today because I'm like, okay, now it's Trigun Day. It's episode 10. After this episode's the penultimate in the season finale, which is crazy. So yeah, everything's fine. Everything's great. It's all wonderful. So the comment that I talk about with you all before we start, though, is from Sunspots for episode 9, who had this to say about that episode. They said, I do not love all the contortion humor, to be honest. Not after the stuff we saw with Legato. And I was like, yeah, that kind of slipped my mind. And this episode seems like, with it being titled Martyr, I'm like, who's the most martyry character outside of Vash and Wolfwood in this? Probably Legato. So guess we'll see how that goes. They also said, and I thought this was on a more somber note, they said, I also do not love how much time they spent on Vash making the bullets and how carefully they showed it to us. I mean, it's sad. It's a really sad scene because Vash is a character that would never want to use those bullets. But I told Sunspots I really do respect that the show, because you know, sometimes in like really heavy battle scenes, they show people gearing up and they're like clocking guns and putting all the bullets everywhere. And it's just like this big prep scene that's like done really quickly and almost sometimes played as a laugh or like motivation. Here with Vash and the bullets, it is very much a somber, like he is taking his time and crafting every bullet with part of his own energy so that if he has to use it, it is him that is using it. And it's like he is taking the time to make sure that he himself is putting every bit of it into that bullet. And I think that it adds more weight to what he's doing and a bit more like soberness to it, which I really appreciated. And then they said things that I did love the most, though, are quite linked. First, the idea of Wolfwood not being able to, or now really trying to, imagine that blank ticket in the lantern scene. Knowing what could have almost happened makes even more moving to me because there is a universe in which this scene is very different for Vash and those kids. And now Wolfwood feels like he can try to imagine. I adore where meta knowledge of a work can bring layers to this of my experience of a character. Yeah, which ties to the scene of Meryl and Millie confronting Wolfwood about whether he is okay or not, with Meryl's line, that more or less is dubious. You have priors. Was this not the makers of Stargaze literally addressing all of us and our trust issues? That killed me. Wolfwood absolutely has serious priors. He's broken so many hearts over the years. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's like there's a lot of meta joking. There was a lot of meta in the last episode, especially when comparing, like, I feel like the audience got a lot out of last episode with Wolfwood, the fact that he's alive, everything going on with him, Vash's decision, Livio, like there was a lot to walk through last week, which was a lot of fun. And now we only have 3 episodes left, so that's exciting! I'm super excited and thrilled to be there with you all. Before we start, I want to give a shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon to thank them so much for everyone on Patreon supporting. You all are amazing. I am super appreciative. If you've not checked out my Patreon, there is a link on my YouTube channel. If you can't support me on Patreon, I totally understand, but please like this video and make sure to comment to help me stay in the algorithm and so that other people can discover the channel as well. But in the meantime, I want to thank these patrons in the philanthropy tier as well as the commission tier: Alex Cornejo, Alexandra Q, Be Happy, Dana, Damage3245, Daniel, Devorin, Destiny Marie, Diana Williams, as well as Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnup, James, Elfreya, Lou Genesis, Lyndon, Murphy, Rast, Rose Jennison, as well as Sunspots, Translucent Min, Shimoyama, Zero Anti-Zero, Nicholas, Sean, and Jason N. Thank you so much for all that you've done, for all of your support, and to everyone on Patreon, all of my love. Anyway, that's what I got. So it's super nice outside. It's like, actually, I was like sweating a little bit earlier. It's like we've had a heat wave come through, which is, the weather this month has been insane. And so, of course, like my sinus and throat is like, bleh. But it's okay. I have tea. So we're all good. But in any case, my dogs are outside enjoying the weather. So we're just going to let them have that. And we are going to get started with episode 10 of TRIGUN STARGAZE. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do it to it. Ho, ho, ho! So, yeah, okay, TRIGUN. Well, interesting choices made in this episode. Interesting choices. Knives has become a Bleach villain. Or Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, one of the two. I'm very curious. I have thoughts about Knives, and we're going to be looking at some TRIGUN Maximum for the spoiler corner, so I have things to say about the spoiler corner. It's going to be very hard for me not to talk about the spoiler corner, but we're going to save it for when we get to it. So we have quite a bit to talk about, and I want to dive right in as my dogs, they've come back inside. But we're going to get started here, looking at some screenshots here in 3, 2, 1. That damn moon that looks like the eye of Tesla is just, it's so good. I love it. I love that the eye, if you notice, the eye is just sitting there and it's like looking at the arc. The eye of Tesla is looking at Knives, like judging him for his decisions that he's made. I am amazed, to be quite honest, but I'm not surprised. I guess we'll talk a little bit about this. This is not really a spoiler cornery thing, but I am surprised Alindira does not take more wariness towards Knives and the fact that he's grafted and taken all of the plants for himself. If I were Alindira, I would be very concerned. I'd be like, oh, you in danger, girl. If he gets kind of testy and feels like he needs some more plant power, you and Vash are like the only ones left, right? At the moment, anyway. But to be honest, and this isn't really a spoiler corner thing, I feel like Alindira in TRIGUN Maximum is also not very concerned and secure in their safety with Knives. So it tracks for them as a character. It's just we as the audience, we're like, girl, do you not see the writing on the wall? But she may believe that because she's already an independent, that she's safe. Because all of these other plants were not independents. And as Livio points out, Knives' whole thing is creating independence. So his whole prospect is, well, it's kind of this weird sort of eugenics that Knives is sort of proposing in a weird way, because what he's suggesting is that the plants themselves have a flaw in which they need humanity, but him and Vash and Alindira in tow, they don't need humanity because they're kind of humanoid, they're independents. So Knives' idea of let's just create a planet where me and my bro and you, Alindira, can just repopulate the place is like, oh, with more independence, huh? Okay. The one thing is, I don't think Knives has really done the research on how the independence came to be enough. I know there's the gates and everything involved, but I don't know if he's done enough of the research to truly know what's all entailed. Maybe that's what he was doing in Stampede, so maybe he has done the research, but it's like, still, the fact that he's taken it all for himself is a bit concerning. And now we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. There's 40 plants in that shot of what he's about to graft onto himself. And I'm like, and he had 20 more from the last episode or the episode prior. So I'm like, there's no plants left. It's literally just you all and the plants that are on the fleet ship should they come down to Earth, because they're 1 day away. 1 day away, mind you, from the fleet showing up. My, how time flies, right? Yeah, the sync completion with all this. I like that the idea that he's just been absorbing all of these plants to like enhance himself. The doctor is giving all the death code vibes, every red flag. The moment they start getting that old black lung cough, which I have a little bit of a, I I have a little bit of it left over from the flu. The death cough that he's got there, the death rattle, I'm like, I don't feel like the doctor is long for this world. The thing as well that is troubling with that is that, as you've noticed in this series, the doctor's the one doing all of the grafting, all of the work. So Legato don't know any of that business. Alindira don't know any of that business. So once the doctor dies, there's not going to be much more of that tech because nobody knows how to do it, right? And Legato, I am fascinated and so pleased with Legato's, like, the biblical warped twistedness of him in this episode. What a world. What a crazy twist. I mean, Legato was kind of like that with Faith and Martyrdom in the manga, but they really ham it up in this, and I like it being hammed up. And so Alindira, I like this little shot of Alindira on 9 Lives. That's really cute. She looks so, it's a nice little contrast. She looks so petite with her little dress and her little crisscrossed feet with her delicate ankles, like sitting there on top of 9 Lives. It's a cute little contrast. I like it. The power he needs to enact the Genesis. Genesis Blood Flood Big Fall is such a shonen name. One thing that I thought was interesting is that even after merging with countless plants, his hair still has the black in it, which is an interesting twist. You would think, after absorbing all the plants, that his hair would not have those black lines, which I didn't check very well at the very end. Maybe they're gone. We'll have to see. Maybe they're gone. We'll have to see how that looks. But yeah, merging, he's a cluster of unfathomable energy. Well, you know, usually when you gather all this energy, whether it's the Hogyoku or whether it's powering up, you know, on a desert planet such as Namek, you know, you tend to change your appearance a little bit. So very shonen indeed. But yeah, Legato's voice actor, he does such a good job anyway, but he really had a ball just hamming it up with Legato in this episode. I thought he did a really good job. I liked his voice acting, talking about writing a new book of Genesis, and I'm like, you ain't gonna be there for that book of Genesis, or maybe you will! Maybe you will, since Knives saved Legato. My shipper self could not have seen this day coming. Ever! I was like, what? This is so crazy. He'll become a true god. I mean, you gotta have followers if you're a god, and Legato is your biggest follower. A long journey indeed. All that remains of the followers, if you haven't noticed, are Legato, Alindira, 9 Lives, and myself. And 9 Lives doesn't seem like he has too many other options as far as such things go. And the doctor doesn't look long for this world, so it's about to be 3. You know. I like that 9 Lives lets Alindira over. She just has to look at him and he knows where to go. But we have to have Vash back. We have made it abundantly clear that the twins are only complete when they are together. That's been Knives' philosophy. Knives has, he's coined this whole religion on the idea that him and Vash are 2 sides of the same coin, right? They have to be, cannot separate, do not separate, must be together. Now, look, I'm going to be real with you all. I do not ascribe to the Knives Vash shipping. I know that it is popular in Japan, and I know that on AO3 there is an abundance of ships for Vash and Knives. And look, they're not human, so the whole incest thing, plants are, you know, asexual a lot of times in nature and monosexual and whatever, what have you. So, you know, they're plants, they're aliens, we shouldn't judge them. But the whole thing, they need each other to fill what's missing of themselves. You could get a gutter mind real quick on that. So I'm just saying, we're going to talk about Blue Top as well, because that man has never topped a thing in his life except his own misery. So, yeah, and I love how Legato got really kind of angry at that notion, being like, oh, Knives doesn't need Vash. Love that. So yeah, this shot here of Alindira, I was like, girl, are you worried? But she is a little bit worried in this moment, saying like, it's odd. He's about to achieve his goal of turning this planet into a place for plants, you know, a paradise, but he seems sad about it. And I think that the main thing is that he's not with Vash. Like, as a lot of villain plans go, it really comes down to this character needed a hug. Is what this basically is. Knives just wants his brother. He wants his brother back. and he's jealous of humanity, who he believes has stolen Vash away, which is not entirely the case. But Knives has gravely misunderstood the scenario, and Vash has not appropriately communicated with his brother about it, or he's misunderstood what Knives' thoughts are. And Knives, who has been very tsundere throughout all of this, just can't come out to Vash and say he misses his brother and he wishes that he wasn't, around. He's like, why are you playing with them humans? Why aren't you playing with me? Like, that's literally what it is. And Vash is like, well, Knives, we can have more than one friend. And so that's the disconnect right now. That's the big disconnect, right? I do feel for Alindira, who wants Knives to, like, connect with her, and she feels kind of distant. She's like, are we not good enough? Yeah, I do feel that, because he's sitting here absorbing all these plants and saying that he needs Vash, and she's like, but hey, resurrected you, brought you back, are we not cool? Are we not good enough to be friends? Is this like, why just Vash, it's so interesting, because Vash is like, everyone's my friend. And Knives is like, no one can be my friend, only Vash. And so they're, again, two sides of the same coin. They're so different. And Alindir is like, why are we not good enough? I love the way they animated her in this episode, but I was like, girl, I felt for her. And look at her, she's so sad. She's like, I just want you to be my friends. You, like, brought me into existence, I think. So she says she's overthinking, but I'm like, you are not, girl. You are not overthinking at all. So I like that Vash tries to communicate with Knives, doesn't realize Knives is in the think tank, getting all the plants grafted to him. And so when he tries to communicate with the plants, he ends up communicating with Alindira instead. I thought that was freaking cool. I thought that was a neat little thing to do. Liked how that was set up. But yeah, and Legato was like, well, this saves us the trouble of going to find them. And now we wait. I don't know why Wolfwood was obsessed with being in frog pose this whole time, but I'm here for it. He's just hunched on down like a little Yoda there. And Livio was like, now we just have to wait. And I like, I need to go back to that. Gotta go back to that. I like that Vash calls it, like, this is where this all began. This is where hell began. That's so sad, because to Vash, it's where Rim died. It's where their paradise with the humans and Knives ended. It's where the divide between him and Knives began. It's super sad. And I felt really bad for him in this moment, calling it hell. Even though he's met Wolfwood, even though he's made friends with Meryl and Millie, and even though he's met all these humans, this wreckage and everything that's associated with it is hell to him. And even after 150 years, it hasn't faded at all. And that's such a great tie-in with his angst and his own despair. Mm-hmm. Also, that voice actor, when they're like, Vash, it's so hammy and cheesy. But, that, I will say, last episode I talked about in the intro where someone was saying that Knives isn't what he was in Stampede. You mean Knives wasn't crazy? Well, we might be getting that in the next 2 episodes, so we'll just have to see. We'll have to see on that. And then talking about Rim's regrets. I just like that there's so many crosses in this episode. Wolfwood's cross. You got the Punisher, the Tri-Punisher. You've got Livio's too. All of the metalwork made crosses all over the screen. It was just like, we get it. We get the religious symbolism, Stargaze. You don't have to tell us twice. But yeah. Oh, it's a lighter. I thought it looked like a bullet shell in his hand. So then Livio's like, hey, I've been on this ship. I've been hearing what they've been saying. And what is this paradise for plants that's being talked about? And Wolfwood's like, what we talking about? He's like, what is this? He's like, what's this paradise? And Vash is like, what are you talking about? It's so crazy that we don't realize or we forget that Vash knows nothing about this side plot. He knows nothing about Knives' actual goals. He's like, wait, what's happening? He's like, he wanted to wipe out all the humans on the planet to make every plant an independent. But is that truly a paradise for plants? And Vash is like, what? Vash is like, wait, what? Make all of them an independent? I didn't know this was happening. Why would he want to do that? And he's like, is that what the plants want? But yeah, so he brings up this plan, and Vash is like, independence? Like, he says, some emotions come through to me sometimes, but, he's like, I don't know what the plants are thinking. He's like, their inner hearts and what they truly think and desire. He's like, I don't even know that for sure. And I mean, it's not Vash's job to know what the plants think and desire. Like, again, I think what's interesting is that Knives positions himself from the get-go as a god. He tells all the humans that he's a god. He's convinced Legato in the Eye of Michael that he's a god. He says that Vash is a god alongside him, which we will talk about. And he is like, I know what's best for everyone. And he assumes he knows what's best for the other plants, his brethren. Whereas Vash, on the other hand, is like, I don't know. Vash is like, I've never talked to these plants. I don't know what they want. Why is that my business? So he doesn't claim any of that. And he's like, well, if you don't know, then nobody does. I like that Wolfwood is so confident of Vash. He's like, well, if you don't know, then nobody does. I'm like, there were so many boyfriend material moments between Vash and Wolfwood in this episode that I was like, and this was one of them. I was like, yes, indeed. Then nobody knows. And so he's like, well, then what is Knives basing this all on? And he's like, Wolfwood hits it on the head. Livio's like, well, if Vash doesn't know what the plants are thinking, then Knives doesn't know what the plants are thinking. By that logic, I mean, Knives may have tapped. Here's the fault in the logic is that Livio is assuming that because Vash, and Wolfwood is assuming because Vash hasn't talked to the plants and doesn't know their desires, that Knives hasn't. But Vash has also not absorbed the plants. Knives has. So there is a little bit of discrepancy there. But Wolfwood nails it on the head. He's like, it's just what Knives wants to do. That's at the end of the day. He's like, Knives is just doing what he wants. And then Vash is like what Meryl said before. The desire to learn is what's important. And he's like, have I really tried to understand the plants? He's like, I've not really tried to understand them. I've empathized with them. And then Livio's like, well, that would include Knives. Have you tried to understand Knives? And Vash is like, oh, shit. Which I don't want Vash to feel bad because I feel like Vash has tried to talk to Knives, but Livio's like, he's like, did I say something weird? Like, have you really tried to talk to your brother? And he's like, no. And then he's like, there's no need for that. And he's like, who would blame us for not wanting to understand? I feel like Vash has tried, the whole point of this that Legato kind of gets at as well, is that Vash has talked with Knives. He's tried to tell Knives what he feels is important, and he's tried to tell Knives why he should do certain things. But it does come up in this episode where Legato's like, did you even ask your brother what he wanted? Did you even try to understand your brother? Have you even tried to, like, consider his perspective? And Vash is suddenly like, oh, shit. I kind of didn't. And it's like, yeah, we might want to do that in the final hour. Might want to do that in the 11th hour, especially since he seems to be kind of powered up, you know. If I were to critique this episode at all, there were only 2 moments where I was kind of like, now, I do believe one of those moments will have implications later on. I really do. But the one moment that I was like, we could have done something else is, I'm glad we checked in on Meryl and Millie. I'm not mad at that. But they spent like, what is this? We're at 6 minutes and 50 seconds at this point. And they talk about it being 3 years. And they spent like 30 or so seconds or 40 seconds. Like, they spend almost an entire minute on just being like, wow, it's been a long time, been 3 years. I guess Vash is really, it's been 150 years for him. What a long journey. It was just a minute, so I can't complain about it, but I don't know if that minute could have been used somewhere else. It was the only part of the episode that I felt like it was just padding for time. It didn't seem to be very relevant. You could have shown us Meryl and Millie were there. Now, the next scene that they're in, even though it is drug out for the sake of the joke and it kind of like loses itself for a second for me, I get the point of it. And I was like, oh, well, we're prefacing that they're going to try to get aboard that ark and mess some things up. Maybe they'll see the doctor. Maybe they'll see Alindira. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a girls' trip. Maybe they'll paint each other's nails. Maybe they'll go shopping. Who knows? But yeah, we spent like a solid minute on that. And then Vash is like, I love Vash's whistling. That felt like it was tying directly back to the 1998 anime, which was such a great little moment. And it felt very Western. This entire season has been very sci-fi in nature. So having that little whistle, the Westerns and whistles, it all felt like it was connecting. It was a good choice. I liked it a lot. Liked that choice. So yeah, so everybody's like, let's get ready to get down to brass tacks. Because Livio is coming down. And Livio, I like when Livio's like, I'm going to go down and take care of business. And Alindra shoots the 2 nails at him on either side. Again, if you're talking about martyrdom, like she's literally trying to crucify him in that moment. And I was like, girl, where she's like, don't kill Vash. You know that you can't kill him. Knives doesn't want that to happen. And I like that Legato says, I'm going to vindicate myself. I'm not going to kill Vash, but I'm going to punish him. And punishing Vash does not mean kill him. Punishing Vash means that Vash lives and someone else dies. That's how that works. So I thought that was a cool little clarification. This thing here is super creepy. The face that, like, it looks like it's like a face hugger, and it's also a scorpion and a spider. It's like a face hugger, scorpion, spider. It was creepy. It was a very effective weapon. I have thoughts for the spoiler corner, but he's like, I have to show how deep my faith runs. He was all like, we were getting into some biblical discussions in this episode, and I was like, Legato, okay. So 9 Lives comes back out. I believe there are 9 of him. He shows up with this face hugger device. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there are 9. 9 of the 9 lives, which that checks out. Let Livio and Wolfwood fight them. Sure. Oh, wait, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8. So one of the 9 lives is probably up on the Ark. The OG one is probably up on the Ark with Alindra. Probably, if we're to guess, which that checks out. We're going to talk about that in the spoiler corner. But I love that I love that Vash has his boyfriend on one side and his boyfriend's brother on the other. He's got his brother-in-law on one side and his boyfriend on the other. Like, just lots of buff boys right here. Legato was just, the actor's having the time of his life. I'm just, like, he did a really good job voice acting. And I love that Wolfwood's like, son of a bitch. I want to deal with this. I love the animation of the face hugger scorpion spider. And Vash being like, Vash was kind of done. He's like, all right, I'm going to be serious, Legato, because he rightfully so knows what he's capable of. Also, can we talk about the fact that Livio's just fighting in some damn blue jeans? I'm all about it. I'm all here for it. He was doing a great job. And I love that he says he's not Razlo, but he's Livio. Good for him. He's like, don't use my dead name. Please and thank you. Look, Legato being able to fight without using the telekinesis, because you knew the telekinesis was going to come in at some point, but my theory is that Legato knows that the telekinesis, he can easily get out of hand with it. It easily gets, he kind of gets drunk on that power of using it. So he wants to save it till the very end. And not only that, but also the fact that he's like, I want to save that as my trump card to get Vash to, to kill me, to wear him down and then use it. So the fact that Legato was able to do this close quarters combat was pretty effective. I was like, okay, all right, yeah, see how that goes. So in any case, we get this battle between them. And Millie's like, man, are we just going to sit here and watch? What can we even do? We'll talk about this more in the spoiler corner. But Millie's like, wow, you can almost just go right up to that Ark. Now, the joke fell a little flat to me. I think they drug out the joke a little bit. When they first did the huh and the huh, that was funny. And then they drug it out a little too long for my tastes. But I was like, oh, girls, I'm all for them going on the ship, especially now that Knives is not on the ship and it's just the Doctor and Alindra. Let's have a party. Let's have a slumber party. Let's do that. This was really good. I am thoroughly convinced, as I said in the reaction, that the creators of this episode and the animators and the storyboard directors, they grew up in the 90s. They are millennial. They grew up in the 90s because this was the most 90s battle scene that I have seen in quite some time in Shonen. And look, maybe they didn't grow up in the 90s, but they definitely knew that this series is from the 90s because skateboarding on hunks of metal, you don't get much more 90s than that. I'm sorry. There was skateboards in the, think of Back to the Future Part 2. Skateboards, I think of Goofy Movie, I think of Goof Troop, I think of Burger King Kids Club, and that was like, you know, product placement, but there is so much skateboarding in the 90s. It was the trend. It was the thing. You still see it nowadays, but it was like a movement. And like skyboarding and stuff like that, yeah. But I thought this battle was so well done. I really liked the choreography of it. And I liked Vash versus Legato. I mean, again, oh my God, it's literally Vash, Knives, their two boyfriends. Wolfwood's brother-in-law is here, or the Vash's brother-in-law is here. It's all great, right? It's great. Should we consider Nine Lives to be Knives' brother-in-law? Should we call him Legato's brother? Can we do that? I mean, why not? Okay, also, this scene right here where Wolfwood and Livio are back to back. Look at that shot. Look at that shot. Look at that. It's so good. It's so good. It's amazing. I love it. Yes, please. That's so good. Y'all. I'm 1,000 times here for it. I love it. But anyway, the two of them fighting side by side, it was very satisfying to see because you don't get to see it that often. And also good for Livio to have a flamethrower in one of the Punishers. That was great. Now, honestly, I'm glad that there is kind of a fourth wall breaking joke where Wolfwood's like, it's stupid, there are so many of these 9 lives. And Livio's like, yeah, they're not very cunning or strategically advanced, but they are very indestructible. So what do we do with that? So meanwhile, I like that Livio's like, look, I'll deal with all of them. He's like, I'm pretty indestructible as well. You go rescue your boyfriend. He's like, we gotta take out the blue-haired freak and get to the Ark. And Livio's like, how about you go help your boyfriend out and I'll take care of these guys. I'm here for it. I am here for it. He's like, you're not supposed to worry about your big brother, dumbass. Livio's too precious for words. He's too adorable. I love him. I love me some Livio. Him being a little brother, it's just so cute. I am 1,000 times here for it. So anyway, Wolfwood goes to help as Vash is facing Legato, and Legato, in typical Legato fashion, is just teasing him, being like, you're gonna have to kill me. If you want to stop me, you're gonna have to shoot me and you're gonna have to kill me, which is what Vash does absolutely not want to do. He's like, not only is he saving, also, I think it's good to note that the bullets he used on Legato are not the bullets that he saved for Knives. Not the fancy bullets. No. They were just regular ones. So, in other words, using them on Legato, if he hadn't shot for the head, if he'd shot him like in the leg or the arm, they would have hurt him, but they wouldn't have like killed him or sent him to another dimension. You know, that potentially these other bullets can possibly do. He's like, you still don't want to kill anyone. Again, the opposition of Knives wants to kill everyone. Vash wants to kill no one. So you have the two sides. He's like, you have to want to kill me. And Vash is like, I really don't want to do that. That's the only way to cleanse your sin-soaked body. He's like, I'm pretty sure that murder will not cleanse my sin-soaked body, but I'm glad that you think it will, from the transgression of tormenting and saddening Lord Knives over 150 years. So what he basically means is he's like, you have not been listening to what Knives has wanted. You know, you've been tormenting Knives by following humanity. So if you kill me, that will appease your brother because he's wanted you to feel the same way he does about humanity. Legato has a death wish. So he's like, just go ahead and kill me and get it over with. And it's like, ha! He's like, you've been tormenting him for 50 years. I know all too well how saddened he was when you betrayed him. This part was, again, all the metal crosses. From here on in, every piece of metal you see is like in cross shape. This part here was really fascinating because Legato is like, your brother's been sad because you're not there with him and it's been pissing me off. And Vash is like, my brother's sad by me betraying him? What? He's like, don't be stupid. Nye would never be sad. And he's like, he is sad Why don't you understand? Now, I like Wolfwood's interjection here because Legato's argument is, he's like, you haven't stopped and thought about how Knives has felt. And it's like, for Legato to give Vash this talk is crazy. He's like, I do think this is interesting because this goes back to episode 7, where he's like, instead of just forcing your feelings and your empty words upon him. Now, do I think Vash's words were empty? No. But do I think that Vash very much was trying to put his opinions onto Knives? Yeah, kind of. That's the whole point. He's trying to reach him. And he's like, have you ever thought about how Knives actually felt? And of course, Vash, who has been like the resident empath of this series, is like, well, have I thought about Knives? Like, he's questioning everything now that Legato's bringing it to the forefront. Like, he's like, what? And then, yeah, I love that Legato, I love Vash is like, wait, you care this much about Knives? How was I not invited to this relationship? And then I thought for a second that Wolfwood had found the motorcycle, but no, it's a piece of scrap metal. And Wolfwood's like, don't be making my boyfriend have doubts. We've worked too damn hard to get here. That was great. I love that Wolfwood inserts himself into the conversation and just immediately starts firing at Legato, which is probably why he had to, like, use his telekinesis. And he says, Blue Top, I didn't realize you were such a brat. Well, yes, Legato is a brat. Blue Top? I mean, Blue Summers, you should say Legato Blue Bottoms, but I can't assume. Maybe Wolfwood knows something that we don't know, but I don't picture Knives being a bottom. Just saying, I don't picture that at all. So, but brat, yes. Legato is a brat. And I love that he is like, no matter how much you talk, people never truly comprehend one another. I like that Wolfwood brings that up. He's like, it's not Vash's job to have to know what his brother is thinking 24/7. I like that Wolfwood says, it is not Vash's job to have to know how everyone in the world works. He doesn't. Wolfwood's like, this guy tries so hard already to understand everybody. He doesn't have to, but he does. Quit getting him to try to feel bad for not being around Knives, who he hasn't seen in 150 years. Except for like a handful of times. And then Vash, who is, you know, he doesn't have to respond to that. He could let Wolfwood talk for him. He goes, can you teach me? And I'm like, oh my God, this saint. He's like, can you teach me? And Legato's like, what? And Wolfwood's like, what? He's like, I want to understand. He's like, you seem to have been around my brother a lot, Legato. He's like, what are you thinking? And what is Nye thinking? That in itself is basically Vash saying, hey, you've been around my brother a lot. You guys seem pretty close. Can you teach me how to read my brother and help you out? Like, Vash of Latter-day Saints has come up here to be like, well, hello, I would like to. It's so funny because when Knives calls him a god and says that they've had two gods, which has been Knives and Vash is like, me, a god? But then here he is being like, would you like to know about how true eternal love works? It's like, it's like, sir, I need you to sit down and listen to yourself. And Legato, I love whenever characters that have a lot of angst and darkness like start laughing, because it's usually like just, he's like, what else? He's like, sure, I'll teach you. If you can defeat me, then I will. But yeah, I like that he still tried to battle with the face hugger thing. And then when it wasn't going to work out in the end of it all, when it wasn't going to work out, also Vash and Wolfwood working together, great. Good for them. But when it wasn't going to work out in that moment, that's when he starts to use the telekinesis, because he's like, I'm not going to. But before he does that, Vash gets behind him, and you think he's going to fire at him, which is what Legato wants. Legato wants him to shoot at him. And then I love that expression, because he's like, are you really? Bitch, are you really going to fire at me? Like, you weren't going to fire at me before. Why would I think that you're going to do it now? And then Vash is like, surprise, bitch, I'm a mother trucking Care Bear. I'm a mother trucking Care Bear, and I'm going to hug you instead. He's a person at a convention that is like, you're getting free hugs, whether you like it or not, is basically what he does in this moment. I absolutely love this. I need someone to, okay, look, I'm not a free hug person at a convention. I'm an introvert that likes my 6 feet of personal space. So I'm like, in the bubble. But if people are willing, I need to see this reenacted at a convention. I need somebody to be Legato. I need someone to be Vash. I need this to happen so that people can photograph it. It needs to happen. And Wolfwood's like, thanks for holding him. Now I'll finish him off. He's like, don't worry, Vash. I know you can't. And this is the part that gets me, though. Because whenever Wolfwood's like, okay, you think Vash is holding him. It's very Piccolo and Goku. Speaking of Dragon Ball Z, he's going to hold him and Wolfwood's going to shoot him. But I think it speaks so much to Wolfwood and how much Vash has changed him. Instead, what Wolfwood is going to do is aim at that skull. Now, is that skull giving Legato the power of telepathy in this series? I don't know. He definitely does not want that skull to be hit or destroyed. But because the moment he was like, this is the end, he's like, he was going to destroy that skull that has some kind of glowing mechanism to it. And Legato's like, oh, we can't have that. That's when he uses the telekinesis. And honestly, in this series, the telekinesis you would expect is going to be pretty gnarly. But the fact that he was twisting Wolfwood's neck and you can see like the way it's twisted around the neck there, I didn't notice that at first until he started bleeding, and I was like, oh shit, he really is just like about to snap his like head off and decapitate him. Because he's not doing it to Vash. If you notice, he's not doing it to Vash. Vash's neck is not like that. It's just Wolfwood. And he's basically getting Vash to try to shoot him to save his boyfriend, which, mission accomplished in this episode. We're going to talk about it a little bit more in the spoiler corner. They said they say praise our two gods, which that in itself is a little bit of a change and a twist in the system, isn't it? Because in all the other iterations that I've seen, it's been Knives being like, praise me, I'm your god. And for Legato to admit this revelation, pun intended, that Knives told them, you have to worship me and my brother, is crazy. And then when Legato's like, I was looking forward to meet you, I was thinking a threesome. But then when I met you, I realized the threesome wasn't going to happen, and I was disappointed. I wanted a plant sandwich because I'm vegan, bitch, and I wasn't going to get it. The idea of vegan Legato wanting to be in a Vash Knives plant sandwich. It's fun. I'm gonna get my mind out of the gutter now, but yeah. He says the first, of course, is Lord Knives, and the second is you. And Vash is like, I did not ask to be a god. I'm just out here spreading the good word of kindness. He's like, I met Lord Knives. I love the fact that it's the sunlight shining down. He's like, I met Lord Knives, and I was fulfilled. And I'm like, oh, buddy. He's like, I was compelled to worship and follow him, which, yes, that checks out. And then he's like, on top of that, to have yet another god. He's like, to be blessed with two. He's like, I couldn't wait to meet you. And then he's like, and then I did. And you turned out to be a god of betrayal. I like that while we're watching this, there are these beings. Where did these beings come from? Are these what are inside the gauntlets? Are these what are inside 9 lives? Where... Is that what was in the concept art from the last episode? Were these it? Was that a baby gauntlet? Was that a baby 9 lives in the last episode in the concept art? That's cool. These little gremlins. And then Livio's like, you guys are like a bunch of kids. I can't kill kids. Yep. You saddened and tormented Lord Knives. Poor Livio. Livio's out here like giving it his all. Your sins are too grave, so you have to be punished. You have to pay the highest price imaginable. Also realizing that this is his actual hand and not a glove, and how pale Legato is pretty crazy. Like, I hope that man put on SPF like 150, because otherwise he gonna burn. And he's like, when you're pure of heart and body at last, you'll be ready to stand beside Lord Knives as the other god. Of course he's delusional. The idea that Knives wants Vash to murder him, to murder him and claim himself alongside Knives with wanting to destroy humanity is quite delusional indeed. But he's like, and then we'll wipe out the rest of the world together. What could be better? And so he's like, the hour of judgment is upon you if you want to. And then it's like, if you want to save Wolf, he's like, I know you won't kill me by yourself. You won't kill me for knives. You won't do it for anything else, but you might do it for me if it means saving your boyfriend up there. And it actually worked, which is the crazy part. He says, kill a human for the first time of your own free will. It's also sinister that he only let him move his hand to pull the trigger. That's the crazy part. And the crazier part of that is, as we're seeing all of these crosses, and of course it's the 3 crosses. So in the Bible, there were 2 people that were crucified alongside Jesus Christ. So it's the 2 people there. He's like, this is my Golgotha. This is my martyrdom. This is where I die. This is where I do it all for knives. Above, I love that the ark is positioned where the sun is. So it's like, you know, all the symbolism with that washing down upon him. And the thing is, knives, I mean, Vash and knives will know how deep my faith is. Well, he'll know now as he's shown up. We'll see how that goes. But I thought that Vash might shoot at his leg, might shoot at his arm. I also thought Vash might shoot at that, since that seems to maybe have some reason why Wolfwood was targeting it. But he aimed for his head. He aimed for his head because Wolfwood was about to die. And he didn't want to miss. Because if he had aimed for the skull and missed, then there was a good chance Wolfwood would have been dead. So instead, to save Wolfwood, after everything they'd gone through, which I was like, I don't need a Game of Thrones thing happening here, so no thank you. And for, like, Legato, as eccentrically happy as he looks in that moment, like, that looks like something straight out of Casper the Friendly Ghost. That when his head, like, does the fishbowl thing. It looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost right there. It looks like Bill Pullman. But for him to, oh God, the veins and everything, that's so crazy. But he shot. He shot in that moment. Yeah, you can see like the veins and stuff there. Oh, that's so gross. And then that's when he hears Wolfwood's words, someone has to bring the fangs or someone will pay in tears. And for those words to come back. And the bullet came to him. And honestly, as the bullet is about to like hit him, Legato's like, that's what he wanted. He has had a death wish this entire time. He wanted to do it for knives because he's a fanatic. And for the bullet to be stopped by knives is crazy. Is crazy. And Vash is like, well, so on the one hand, Vash isn't going to feel horrible for killing Legato. On the other hand, the fudge you say. And so then he comes down. I thought for a second he had his little hoodie. Nope. Instead, he's like combined. It looks like he's like merged with the organ, the piano that he plays. And there's like all of the knives. The knives vines are like slinging around him. So there's that. What does he look like? He looks like Frieza and Perfect Cell came together. Yeah. So he has all these knives, all these plants. Like it looks like fish bones all strung around him. And there's little bits of vines like what Vash had in Stampede that are surrounding him. And his hair is all okay, but I also wonder, since it's becoming black, if that's going to eventually all turn black. Now I don't know. But yeah, and he even kept the beauty mark. They kept the beauty mark. All right. So apparently this is male plant knives form after absorbing all the other plants. So there's that. He looks like one day until the fleet arrives. Nobody knows because the communication's been out, but it's July 20th, year 113. Yep. So that's fun. That's fun. One day till the fleet arrives. How convenient. I want to look at the concept art here and see the concept art in this moment. Let's check out the concept art. Okay, the piano with him playing it. Classic, iconic. Also, the vines were coming off the piano, so the vines being connected to his form now is interesting. This, yeah, looking back at that, let's go back to that for a hot second. Yeah, this, like, all these, like, we're going to talk about Spoiler Corner more. And then, ooh, that ship and all that coming out. Okay, all right, Fishbone. It's just you and me. And then there's these jellyfish, look like bullets maybe. Also, Vash, ooh, with the black all around him. Okay. Okay. We got a black and white motif going with him and knives. And then that looks like Octavern. Oh, what is this? I love the hand coming out of the wings and all that. It looks like they're breaking out of a nest or an egg. Okay, and episode 11 is called I Miss You. Well, it's going to be Knives saying that he misses Vash. And Vash is going to be like, well, stop being a serial killer. And be my brother. I want to talk about some spoiler corner things, so we're going to discuss that, but a good episode. Most of the things that I like about it are tied to the spoiler corner, so I can't really discuss it here without getting into spoilers from the manga and things like that, but I'm very interested to know your thoughts below. If you are not staying for the spoiler corner, please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you can, and let me know your thoughts about Trigun Stampede and Stargaze. But let's talk about spoilers, shall we? So I've got with me Trigun Maximum Volume 5. This is the last volume of Maximum. It contains the volumes themselves that finish out Maximum. Now, with that being said, this contains Double Duel, Mind Game, and Mind Games, the last 2 volumes of the series, 13 and 14. Volumes 13 and 14 of Maximum. I bring this volume up because this is the end of Legato in this volume. But something important to keep in mind is that the fight against the Starfleet and lots of other things happen in volumes like 10, 11, and 12. So the volumes before this. So Stargaze is not keeping up with the trajectory and storyline of Maximum. And I've talked in previous episodes, I'm fine with that. This was not meant to be Maximum. And so Stargaze has always been its standalone thing that's a sequel to Stampede that's still standalone. It's incorporating Maximum elements. I'm happy for that. But I didn't want... I mean, I like Maximum on its own. But to be frank, Maximum has a little bit of repetitive elements at times. And the tone of Maximum does not match up with Stampede at all. So Stargaze's tone definitely matches up more with Stampede. It would not, if you had tried to incorporate Maximum into a sequel of Stampede, it would feel like complete whiplash. So I'm fine with that. But I want to talk about some very distinct differences that we've had so far that I'm curious what we're going to get moving forward. I like the idea of bringing the battle back to, I love the idea of bringing Rim, where Rim died, as the final battle place of Knives and Vash. I love that. That's very symbolic. It ties everything back together, especially the last 2 episodes. I think that's a great choice. I love that. I love the fact that we're going back to the beginning to wrap up, unless we get something after Stargaze with that. So I'm curious with that. My biggest thing is we have 2 episodes left, and there's quite a lot of, I mean, the fleet is 1 day away. So the fact that it's 1 day until the fleet comes, it's like, is the fleet gonna arrive in episode 12 and that's just gonna, and they're gonna just like blow Knives to smithereens? I don't know. Or are they gonna show up in a day and then Knives is like, oh hey, we sorted everything out and now you guys don't have to fight the fleet and we're gonna all get on the ship and Knives is gonna come too and it's all gonna be hunky-dory, you know? That would be crazy. That would be insane. But there's no telling at this point. We talked about last week about the idea of how do you end Trigun, because Trigun in itself, Maximum, we might as well talk about the ending with Maximum. The ending with Maximum is essentially after all these battles and all these things go down, that Knives ends up saving Vash because Vash finally reached him. Vash finally reached Knives. Knives saved Vash, and in turn, Vash saves Knives. And in the end, they kind of like, at the end of Maximum, it's sort of left to like, did Knives die? Did he not? Vash is still around, but where is Knives? Well, we might just have to go find him. Who knows? And then they have their little adventures and the story ends with Vash running off with his black hair. Now, how they're going to do this, I don't know. I feel like you could do a lot of different things with the ending of it. One thing that I do think is cool is as I was looking back through this, Knives does have a moment where he looks kind of inhuman and he looks sort of like the form that he does now, but he doesn't have the black eyes and he doesn't have like all the tendrils and everything, but he does kind of look like it a little bit in Maximum. I do love the big dinosaur, like, arm that he has in Maximum, so I'm a little sad we haven't seen that. But here's the thing. All of those, like, he looks like he's, like, a bunch of feathers that are, like, wet that haven't unfurled. So it could very well be in the next episode or so that all those wings unfurl and the feathers come out and it expands. And there's lots of possibilities, right? Lots of possibilities that we could still have with Knives moving forward. There's some things from Maximum that I would like to have seen adapted in Stargaze that I don't know if we will get or not. In Stargaze, Alindira's stuck on the ship with the doctor. I don't know if that's going to change. In Maximum, Livio fights Alindira for quite some time in the book. Like, they have a very extensive battle in Maximum. I don't foresee... The only way I could foresee Livio fighting Alindira is if they go onto the ship, right? They go onto the Ark. Because if the original 9 Lives is with Alindira on the Ark and the Doctor, if Meryl and Millie go up to the Ark and they encounter the Doctor, let's say Wolfwood and Livio go up to the Ark, Livio fights 9 Lives, and then... Or Livio fights Alindira and Wolfwood fights 9 Lives. That's the only way I could see it happening. Otherwise, I don't know. But Wolfwood's kind of down for the count because he nearly died, which we're going to talk about in a second. But so I don't know if Livio will fight Alindira. Now, if Wolfwood's down for the count and Gauntlet is, or 9 Lives is gone and out of the picture, then there is a very good chance that while Vash is fighting Legato and Knives or whatever, Livio could fight Alindira. That could still happen. But I don't know if it will or not. I don't know. Is Knives going to hurt Legato and put him out of his misery? I don't know. I can't believe that Knives saved Legato. That is... I mean, he saves him in the manga. He does save him to use him. So there is that. And to be honest, Legato wants to die. And since Knives hates humanity... and doesn't want them to get their way, the fact that he makes Legato live against his will is pretty on point. It's shippable, but it's also pretty on point for their character. So I'm kind of like, I'm here for that. To be honest, I like the Legato fight a lot. I like the idea of Legato and his worship of Knives and him chastising Vash about it, which is crazy. In the book, in Maximum, what I wanted to show is that Legato wants to die. That's kind of his main thing. And although Alindira looks so good in Maximum, it's such a shame. Such a shame. Alindira looks amazing in Maximum against Livio. That's just... Wish we could get more of that. But anyway, so Vash's whole thing is that Vash fights against Legato. There's a lot of tension. This felt kind of like a tweak of the 98 anime is what Stargaze does. Because in Maximum... Wolfwood is dead at this point, and it's Livio and Vash versus Alindira and Legato, while Knives is facing the fleet up there, so the timeline is a little bit different than Stargaze. And Legato gets to the point where he's literally been torturing Vash for, like, most of this mega volume, most of this deluxe volume, and Vash still won't kill him. So in Maximum... Legato uses Livio and Alindira to kind of force Vash to kill him. And that's what happens in Maximum. And it's very sad, and it's very messy, and it's very angsty and depressing. And I do appreciate in this version that they give Vash resolve without torturing him. And it's grim resolve. Like, if he had actually killed Legato, it would have been very grim. But then Knives comes in because Knives isn't gonna let his brother suffer too much, apparently. This felt more like a tweak of the 98 anime, which I thought was very interesting. And for Shipper's Paradise, let me tell you, because in the 98 anime, Knives, well, not even Knives isn't even in the picture yet, as it is in this episode. Legato forces Vash to kill him to save Meryl and Millie. Meryl and Millie are put in danger, and Vash has to shoot Legato to save Meryl and Millie, and it's very sad and very heartbreaking and very depressing, and it's very much shipper fodder. And here, Stargaze was like, "Oh well, it's been, I mean, what if we replaced Meryl and Millie with the Wolfwood?" I'm like, ah! And it makes sense too, because Again, Vash was so worried. We saw them hand-holding. And Vash was so worried about Wolfwood dying, and he's managed to save him, that now the prospect of Wolfwood actually dying makes Vash be like, nope. and shoots him. So that's crazy. That's so cool. I don't have any issues with the decisions made as far as that goes. The only thing I worry about at this point is the concept that there's only one day, like Knives looking like Frieza meets Cell meets Aizen from Bleach. The fact that that's what he really looks like. But the fact that Knives looks like that, I'm fine with. I think it's very shonen. It's very shonen to have the villain have a transformation before the final act, but this is a shonen. What do we expect? My only thing is that in Maximum, there's like 4 volumes worth of the Space Fleet battle. And then you get Kronos involved. I'm like, I don't think they'll introduce Kronos this late in the game unless they're planning to do a movie afterwards. I don't even think they'll introduce her at all, because what would be the point? Because she kind of is like a sort of counter to Tesla. But I don't think they'll even introduce Kronos, which is a shame. And the story behind Kronos is kind of interesting. But I don't think they'll introduce it at this point. We have 2 episodes left. With 1 day left till the fleet comes, I am curious if the fleet's going to show up and how that is going to work. With the home ship is supposedly doing things and getting to be able to fight back. So I don't know. Or if they're going to spend the next 2 episodes setting up with Knives and setting up the battle, and then it's going to end right as the fleet shows up, and then we're going to have to cut to a movie or something, which would be cool. I would be 100 times for it. But I just don't want them to rush the ending, because there's like 4 or 5 volumes of just Knives versus the fleet. Along with, it's not just Knives versus the fleet. There's Livio versus Lindira. There's Legato. There's Vash. There's Wolfwood's death. There's everything in that along with it, but it's along with it, right? And there's a lot with the townspeople that are involved on Earth and kind of their aspects towards it and their faith in Vash. And it's like the faith in Knives versus the faith in Vash, and that's clashing in there. So there's lots of things. And I get worried whenever you're adapting a lot of content into a short amount of time and granted, Stargaze is not adapting all of Maximum, but the stuff they are adapting, especially if they adapt the Space Fleet, there's a lot to that. And I do get a little fearful that they're going to skip a lot and cut down a lot to simplify it for the last 2 episodes. And I just want it to land. Now, if we do next episode with Vash versus Knives, and then that extends into the season finale, and then the season finale ends as the ship fleet shows up and Knives like unfurls to be this giant monstrous angel thing, sure, let's go. And Legato ends up in his little... I was trying to debate whether I wanted to see Legato in his little sarcophagus. I liked the face hugger thing. That was fun. And the sarcophagus is just for camp purposes. But if Knives incapacitates him in this next episode and then he has to be in the sarcophagus for like a movie or something, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. But I don't know. And then, like, what's Meryl and Millie going to do? What about all this? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and we only have 2 more episodes to play with for Stargaze, so I don't know. But I really did like the conversations with Vash and Legato in this episode. I thought those were great. I thought those worked really well, and I'm very curious to see what we're going to get with Knives and Vash next episode. So... Anyway, I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. I've talked nearly an hour about this episode. But in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I'm so excited I got to record this before the new episode came out. Yay! But I will be back very soon, and we will talk more about Trigun Stargaze episode 11, the penultimate episode, y'all. And I'll see you then. Bye.